Hello and welcome to the second live event in this year's Crypto Adoption Week. This is also the second year that we have organized this week, and the core of the content here is, of course, the survey that K33 has done for maybe 5 or 6 years. Starting in Norway, last year there were also done surveys in Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, and this year we can also welcome Iceland. So we really have a great Nordic overview. We are broadcasting on X, on Kuiper, a landing page on Kuiper, on YouTube, and also on a live event for each country events each day. The organizers and the companies behind the server is K33 and Nordic Blockchain Association, while Kuiper is a community and media partner for this week. The survey is also powered by and supported by Safello from Kvarn X and Visca Virtual Assets, January, and Chainalysis. So the industry is sort of coming together and supporting this initiative. Yesterday we had a live stream and discussions around Sweden, and the recording of that is still available. But today the agenda is Denmark, and we will then also welcome Magnus Jones and Vetle Lunde on stage. Welcome.
Thank you, Morten.
Thank you.
Maybe you guys could give a short introduction to who you are and who you represent. Vetle?
Yeah, so my name is Vetle Lunde. I'm head of research in K33. My day-to-day job is understanding the crypto market and assessing the crypto market from a financial point of view. But every year I've been responsible for handling the survey that we are currently going to show you guys. It's been an interesting journey to understand the path of Nordic crypto adoption. And I'm very glad we expanded it to the Nordics. So I look forward to sharing the Danish numbers today.
And what about you then, Magnus?
Thank you, Morten. My name is Magnus Jones. I used to be the Nordic Blockchain and Innovation Lead at EY Ernst & Young for close to 10 years before I left them last year to be in a more free role and a position, so I could also take board assignments. So among others, now I'm a board member at the K33, but also a board member and the Norwegian representative for the Nordic Blockchain Association. And just in the process of establishing something new that will come out hopefully in just a couple of weeks. So there's exciting times ahead. Been working literally A to Z within this landscape, from the smallest actors to the largest ones, and also been following the survey together with Vetle and K33 for many years. So we're really excited to take this one further now and look into Denmark.
Yesterday we talked about this thing sort of as wrapping up a Christmas present, and this was one of the first time or seldom times that I really enjoyed going into a spreadsheet, Vetle. But now you are adding the second country to this insight, and we are really excited to know, will we see the same trends that we saw in Sweden yesterday, or will we see some differences? And anything to add before we kick it off, Magnus or Vetle?
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Just take the control then, Vetle.
Yes. So very much welcome everyone to the Danish Crypto Adoption Survey. Like Morten said, opening this survey and seeing the data in Excel is like opening a Christmas present. Some Christmas presents are socks. Other Christmas presents are video games or footballs that you can have a lot of fun with. I would say that the result from the Danish crypto survey is more similar to one of those funny gifts, because it was a nice result and a nice trend line of Danish crypto adoption that we look forward to share with you guys today. First, let's start off with some formality. The survey is the second survey that we have ran in Denmark. We use Norstat to fetch a representative panel of Danish citizens. They are asking people in various social classes, various age brackets, and across genders to get a representative sample so we can get good insights on the general populace in Denmark and their crypto holdings. We ask them 4 questions: whether or not they own cryptocurrencies, whether or not they believe they will own cryptocurrencies within the next 10 years, and then conditioned questions if they own cryptocurrencies on what the total value of their cryptocurrency holdings are and which platforms they use to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. These questions and this sample gives us both insights to adoption trends in Denmark, but also continued adoption trends and where people currently trade. So it gives an overview of the landscape in addition to an overview of the adoption. Now that the formality is passed, let's go straight into the numbers. Last year, Danish crypto adoption figures came in at 6.5% of the Danish population. This year, 1 year later, this number has surged to 10%, or 9.8% to be more precise. It is primarily the youth who have driven this adoption, with huge growth in crypto ownership rates among people aged 18 to 29. But we see rather consistent growth in crypto ownership among most age cohorts. Further, it is interesting to note that crypto adoption doesn't seem to be related to one societal class. It is more common than within the average sample to own cryptocurrencies if you are from a high-income household. But likewise, it is also common to own cryptocurrencies among unemployed Danish people and people from Denmark with lower degrees of education. Translating these percentages into concrete absolute numbers shows what a massive increase we have seen over the past year. Last year, we estimated the Danish crypto holdings to represent 300,000 people. This year, this number has increased to nearly 450,000 people, marking a 150,000 people increase in Danish crypto holders, equivalent to 50% growth compared to last year. To us, this is not a major surprise. It is no doubt that 2024 was a very, very solid year for the industry, with the entrance of BlackRock and multiple Tier 1 banks in the ecosystem helping prices rise, and also the US presidential election putting crypto high and up there on the political agenda, now culminating in a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is a tendency that we expect to drive adoption further. But now let's look into the demographics and better understand where we have seen the growth in the past year.
And in the past year, there has undoubtedly been the younger generation, 18 to 29 years, who has led the way here. We have had a growth from 8% to 23% the last year. Looking into also the older generations, 40 plus here, we see that the age group of 40-49 growth from 8 to 12. In addition to also the same age group that yesterday that we saw in Sweden was leading the whole way there, where the age group in Sweden 50 to 64 had a growth of 225%. We see similarities towards the interest of an older generation also here. So it's not only the younger generation who drives this, but in this last year, it's clearly the ones who has driven this one. And it is men that has driven it mainly. We see that the growth has gone from 10%-ish to closer to 17% of all Danish persons who has crypto assets, while it's at a stagnant level of around 3% of female owners in Denmark in general. This is something that we saw from the Swedish survey yesterday, but also something that we have seen in other years and also in other surveys in Europe and in the world in general. So I would say the split between female and men here is similar to other jurisdictions in some matter. But one thing is, of course, that we can look into this one, and we will discuss this one further. And I can also mention, like we did yesterday, that Kaupur had a great broadcast on this one in connection to the 8th of March and World Female Day, where we had dwelled into this for 2-3 hours of reasoning. So I'll not spend more time on this one, but rather leave it for the panel to discuss how we can enhance more diversity in general for later. But one thing is to look into the numbers right now. Another is to look into also going forward, how people are planning to purchase crypto in the next 10 coming years.
Yes, so while adoption numbers from last year was very solid, the expected adoption numbers within the next decades are just incredible in Denmark. As many as 32% of all respondents indicated that they believe they will buy cryptocurrencies within the next decade. This compares to last year's figure of 20% in Denmark, and just goes a long way in showing how much crypto sentiment has improved with everything that happened over the past year. A massive 9% of all Danish respondents indicated that they intend to buy crypto within the next year, and a further 10% indicated that they intend to buy crypto within the next 3 years. So as many as 19% of the respondents in this survey indicated that they believe they will buy crypto within the next 3 years. It's also substantial amounts of people who indicate that they will buy within 5 years and 10 years. And this sums up to a potential Danish ownership rate of 32% by the next decade, which would reflect a Danish crypto ownership of 1.5 million Danes by 2035. And given that this question was asked to all respondents, we wanted to drill down into the raw data and see if we could find information on whether or not current non-owners of crypto in Denmark believe they will buy crypto in the future or not. We have here in this figure, we show basically the figure you saw on the bottom left in the last slide, just translated into current crypto owners and current non-crypto owners, where the blue label is current non-owners. It is very interesting to note that 4% of the respondents who currently do not own cryptocurrencies believe they will buy cryptocurrencies within the next year, and a further 8% who currently does not own cryptocurrencies expects to buy within the next 3 years. So it's a lot of indicators here suggesting that Danish crypto adoption could thrive in the years to come, and it's a very massive contrast to what we saw with Swedish figures yesterday, and very, very impressive numbers overall. And looking at these figures from a demographic lens and age components, we see similarly remarkable figures with more than half of the Danish population aged 39 or younger, indicating that they expect to own crypto within the next 10 years. And across all age cohorts, we see a substantial growth from last year's survey, with people regardless of age brackets being more open to the idea of owning crypto within the next decade. So this suggests that crypto interest in Denmark is spiking, and that Denmark is a region set to grow. And now we will transition over to get a better understanding of where Danish people trade and how much value Danish population has in crypto assets.
Yes, indeed. And the charts here points out that it looks like it has been from previous years that the international crypto exchanges like Coinbase and Binance is leading the way. And naturally, of course, we have to look into the statistical numbers of the number of respondents here. Of course, the survey is linked towards 1,000 respondents in general. So if we take a rough 10% that has answered, this is about 100 people-ish. So, we have to see the numbers in that kind of setting also. However, we see, call it the same tendencies here from the previous years, and also how they're linked in other jurisdictions here, like we saw Sweden. That's the same patterns. So in Sweden, for example, we saw a heavy decrease in the international ones like Coinbase, who had a significant reduction, while in Denmark it stands pretty still. Still strong, but it's a decrease from last year where they had 40%. Now it's down to 32%. Binance, for example, last year had 22%, and now it's 17%. Kraken and eToro is pretty much the same, and other international is also the same from last year. Same with DeFi in some matter. And Firi holds exactly the same percentage as last year with 5%, while Lunar has increased from 17 last year to 20 this year, while BitInvestor and Bitpanda are approximately at the same levels. So it seems that Danish crypto investors have sort of chosen a little their preferred trading platforms in some matter. However, our area where we have seen a clear growth on is the ETFs, the ETPs, that has risen from 5% last year to 14% this year. Sweden was like we discussed yesterday. For the ones who joined this one, they had a significant amount relating to ETFs, mainly because of tax reasons we heard from the panel yesterday. And it would be interesting to also discuss this one further with the panel in terms of if we see a pattern towards also more of a traditional investor and mindset institutional adoption relating to these kind of products here. And one thing is, where do you actually buy, purchase, trade your cryptos? Another is how much do you actually have on your account? There might be an incorrect presumption out there that everyone who is into crypto has huge amounts of converted to fiat money. However, the survey shows here that more than 60% of Danish crypto owners has less than a value of equal to 10,000 Danish crowns. So if we convert it on the other side of the scale here, we clearly see that there's a small percentage of two that has above 500,000 Danish crowns. But looking into this one, these numbers are not called unique for Denmark in general. These are numbers and the patterns that we've seen from Norway for some years, where we have had this question included, while we've seen this one also other places. But even though it can seem that we have maybe a little low number on the high values, if we convert this one in the opposite way, we find some interesting data in terms of the size of the total wealth that is kept in Denmark.
Yes, through some estimate magic, we can translate these numbers and make estimates on the combined crypto wealth seen in Denmark. We're here following a methodology similar to the one Norges Bank did with their Norwegian numbers last year. We basically translate the percentage of owners within each value category to population figures. So for 1,000 to 10,000 Danish kroners, we estimate 144,000 Danish people to be within that bracket. And then we multiply the 144,000 figure with the median value of 1,000 to 10,000 Danish kroners, which is 5,500 Danish kroners. So this lands us on this wealth cohort holding crypto exposure equivalent to 0.8 billion Danish crowns. And as you see on the chart, where the estimated number of owners declines substantially, the estimated wealth within the cohort rises substantially. It was a lot of Danish, or not a lot, but it was a portion of the Danish respondents here who indicated quite substantial holdings in crypto, which led to the above 500,000 outlier. But based on these numbers and based on what they summarize as to, we estimate the Danish crypto wealth to be at around 23 billion Danish kroners, which all things considered is very solid. So to wrap things up here, Danish crypto ownership has over the past year increased by 150,000 people to 450,000 Danes owning crypto. It is a very clear gender gap in Denmark still in relation to crypto ownership, with hardly any growth in female crypto adoption last year, whereas it was a very strong growth within the male cohort. And the Danish crypto wealth is, we estimate it to $3.3 billion, which would be higher than the Swedish crypto wealth, while the average Danish crypto holders hold far less value in crypto than what it's easy to assume. And then everything points towards thriving adoption in Denmark in the years to come, with a lot of enthusiasm and positivity from Danish crypto respondents, with as many as 32% indicating that they expect to buy crypto within the next 10 years. Morten, you're on mute.
There we are. Thank you very much, then, Vetle and Magnus, for this presentation of the results and the findings in the Danish survey. And I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, trying to highlight some of the things. And the first one that is major is the growth of users. Are you amazed about a 50% increase? And does that mean that in some demographics, we are moving towards what is called not only the early innovators, but also the early majority, which is maybe the key to bring the 1 billion people on board on a global scale? Are we moving towards that type of goals?
Well, the current Danish numbers more closely reflects what we have seen in Norway over the past 3-4 years. So what was surprising to us initially was how low adoption rates were in the rest of the Nordics compared to Norway. And now we see indications of like Danish ownership picking up. The growth over the past year has been tremendous and massive, but it's now at numbers more closely reflecting what we have seen in Norway, and it makes a lot of sense given just the overall the news landscape in crypto over the past year, with the US president seeking to create the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and all the major banks and traditional asset managers entering the space through various forms. So you could make the argument that yes, we are in an early adoption curve, but it's also a sense of catching up to where other countries have been. And it's also, or our data also suggests that like while ownership rates have increased quite a lot, the ownership values are still very soft. So we can attribute that to a lot of Danish people testing crypto exposure, but testing with caution. But it's a very promising tendency of growth.
Do you have something to add to this, Magnus?
Yeah, I copy what Vetle says here, but it's also interesting to, of course, we will compare the numbers more in the end of the week on Friday, naturally with all Nordic countries, but still now, since we had Sweden yesterday, we see more that there's a stagnation in Sweden, being at the equal percentage more or less, while we have this significant growth in Denmark. So I would I'm looking very much forward to discuss this one further with the industry experts in the panel.
Okay then, so I think that we then should move on, and we will introduce Jakob Mikkel Hansen. Just to ask him first, you can present yourself, of course, Jakob.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here, Morten. I'm from Nordic Blockchain Association, and we're a non-profit organization for web professional people working in blockchain, and we've been here for now 8 years. The way we kind of operate is that we see blockchain as a technology, which is extremely important when the Nordic embrace. So for us, blockchain like AI and others are important that we have a thriving ecosystem so we can attract capital, the talent, and in general capital and companies. So that's kind of like what we're working on. And some of the things that we're doing is that we have different steering committees within professional within the industry. We got one for finance, how can we improve finance, promote best practice, but we got a legal steering committee. And I think this one is extremely important to kind of highlight. We have a lot of professional in the whole region, but especially in Denmark as well, whereas presume everyone would know that something happened a half year ago where there was a new law coming out where the steering committees have been extremely proactive here. So to deep dive a little bit more into that and to maybe conclude some of the numbers here or maybe the reason why we see such a big adoption curve and positive trends towards us is that we managed to, I think as an industry, to basically speak out loud about what blockchain actually is. And the public elected have been extremely positive towards actually listening. So we finally had the opportunity as industry to sit down and talk to public elected and tell what is blockchain actually used for, right? And as well, I would say that the whole cancellation of the suggested or proposed law, who would basically criminalize a lot of people with the approach, was extremely positive. So we have been working with the public elected and as well with ministries, and the whole process has been extremely positive. Like it has been an extremely open dialogue with the Ministry of Tax and other relevant parties. And I think that this is maybe a reflection that now there's a more, I would say, enlightened discussion about the technology in Denmark in general, right? Which again shows consumers that, okay, there's going to be something more positive sentiment in general. So that was a brief introduction to NBA, and I would love to elaborate more on what has been going on from a tax perspective as well.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some discussions about that also when we are inviting the panel. But if you think about this survey, is it important for you as an industry to be able to present, well, hard or soft numbers, at least if there's a trend here, to maybe do something with the knowledge gap that most politicians and regulators have?
It's extremely important, and that's why we're so happy to be part of it once again. Like the National Bank did some numbers, and it was the same numbers as we did last year. So it's just showing the strength of the number and the accuracy of the numbers. And for us, having an enlightened discussion with public elected have been extremely helpful. So what we've seen having numbers, and that's why we as well added crypto holdings, because we think that's extremely important discussion to have. And I think Vetle said it quite well. We can see there's a lot of people who are experimenting with new technology, which we find extremely important, right? That's around 60%. And we see there are some extremely seriously people in here who are investing in long-term into the industry. So for us, having data like this is extremely important, that you need to take decision on enlightened data and this is what we have. So we're extremely glad that this survey continue, and as well as Magnus mentioned, is now extended to other region of the Nordics, so we got more comparable data. So extremely happy to see this.
And there's something happening during the pre-summer. This year in Stockholm, you have for 7 or 8 years having this big conference in Copenhagen. But what is happening there?
So each year we've done a conference, been in Copenhagen for many years, where we basically gather all the professionals within the industry, public elected as well. We have the National Bank attending. And this year we're doing it in Stockholm. First of all, because Stockholm and Sweden, of course, is a thriving ecosystem, but as well, we really want to strengthen the relationship between the different regions. So hopefully events like this can basically showcase that the Nordic need to stand a little bit closer in this technology race. So for us, inviting, and I think we're trending towards around 1,000 attendees and around 100+ speakers. So this is a great event for everyone that want to learn and really understand what is blockchain, what are people actually building out there. And there's quite a lot of amazing things being built out there. We should be really proud in the Nordic region.
Yes, thank you so far, Jacob. You will also be a part of the discussion afterwards, but then we will go further to invite the panelists. And we have 4 great industry, business, and thought leaders joining us on stage. And maybe you should give the viewers a short introduction. Maybe you could start with you, Rikke. You are, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for the insights and the presentation. Actually, I find it really valuable for the industry overall that you take the time to do such an assessment. So my name is Rikke, and I'm currently the CEO of Coinify. And Coinify is primarily a crypto payments company, so we facilitate payments for online merchants in particular in cryptocurrency, so they can use certain alternative means of payment. And then we also do some on and off ramps. So we also have a solution where you as an end consumer can purchase some cryptocurrency or sell it if you want to go back into fiat money. We've been doing it for quite a while now, almost 10 years. You can say we don't have that many Danish or Scandinavian clients to be frank. But obviously, we can discuss a little bit more, I guess, in this conversation on some of the findings. If I could just point out one thing from the findings so far, I do believe it's great that we see an increase in adoption, but I find this slightly worrying that the male versus female split is so significant, and I really believe that it's a very solid data point to continue this discussion, because if we want to achieve a real adoption, we cannot have this big discrepancy between different parts of the population. And I will, so others can also speak with them.
Yeah, thank you, Rikke. I think that we should just continue with the presentation, and then we can take the topics, and we will get back to diversification. Karina, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me, and great to see all the numbers and the adoption in Denmark, especially. So I'm country manager for Firi in Denmark, and I'm also on the board for Firi in Norway. We're a crypto exchange with 350,000 users in the Nordic region. So yeah, pretty much retail, all of them. A lot of them are new to crypto, at least in Denmark. So it's we have 20 currencies on the platform, and savings and stakings and so on. So I think that that's what I want to tell about Firi for the moment.
Thank you very much, Karina. And then Morten, who are you?
Yeah, who am I? My name is Morten Rundgaard. I am the co-founder of PixelPie. I used to have a Web3 gaming studio, so I'm coming from the gaming side and now into this finance world, which is very, very interesting in so many ways. So we are basically an infrastructure platform, but see us more as a compliance layer across chain, across systems for the Web3 or blockchain-based companies. So we have kind of like specialized in understanding how compliance should work in a new digital world where assets and identities and money flows across borders. And how do you make sure that you help companies who are operating in this industry actually to make sure that they are compliant? So that's a little bit what we do, just random, boring stuff, compliance.
Thank you, Morten. And then Simon or Simon, you can choose.
We can do Simon today. So yeah, first off, thanks for putting this report together and for publishing it. It's great insights. My name is Simon. I'm one of the founders of Januar. Januar is a Danish payment institution that provides payment accounts, so IBAN accounts for European crypto businesses. So we're business to business. We don't engage directly with the retail investors here in the report, but a lot of our clients do. So we have just under 100 crypto companies here in the EU that are using our accounts for payments instead of using a bank for payments. So that's what we provide, a place where they can send and receive fiat and a place where they can do the institutional brokering of crypto on and off ramping.
So then we have a panel that is sort of already diversified relating to the business also, but I mean, we have business to business, we have consumer, we have some that are more moving into DeFi and different kinds of business concepts. And but if you take this issue, diversification, as Magnus said, we in Kuiper, we had a live event related to 8th of March, Women's Day, for 3 or 4 weeks ago, to address this issue. And as Rikke said, other people agree in her saying that we cannot reach adoption without getting the women also on board. What do you think about that? Karina, could you please share your views?
It's hard not to agree with that point, I think. So for sure, I'm not surprised though. The overall diversity and equality in Denmark is going in the wrong direction, not only in terms of savings and investment, but also in terms of people in leadership positions and wages. We recently saw a new survey where we already knew that their wages are 12% lower for the same roles in the Danish industry. But there was a recent survey showing that in terms of for example, board positions or fees as a consultancy, it's 36% lower in wages. So I think that if we look at an overall diversity problem in Denmark, this is just one of them. So, but I totally agree in Hans. It would be nice though if the women could then break this overall tendency in Denmark in the crypto space.
Do Simon or Morten want to chime in? And the question could also be, what can we men do about this?
I think, again, you have to be careful here, right? But I completely agree with Karina, but I actually think there's a shadow number here, because what I have seen is that most of my friends, where I'm asking them, do you actually invest also women? They actually ask the men to invest for them because they're afraid to make mistakes, because it's a UX thing, it's a new thing. They are a little bit afraid of doing it. So I think it's a little bit with platforms. I think it's a little bit with UX and the accessibility, and it's something new. I think men is more kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do it on your behalf, or I'm going to help you do it because I'm not afraid to do it. So I still think there is a little bit of shadow number. Otherwise, I completely agree that we need to have more women into it. But I think more women has actually picked up because of there's a whole movement going on right now where a lot of women group where you can find financial advice. They're actually helping each other, educating, which I think is brilliant. When we need much more than that, more than this. But I do believe that there is still a little bit of a number where I know a lot is actually as a couple are investing, but maybe it's actually the husband who is investing or the boyfriend who's investing on their behalf. And I still think there is a little bit that the number is not so bad that we actually think it is, maybe.
What about you, Simon?
Yeah, yes. As Morten said, you have to be a little bit careful when you comment on this, right? But I think I want to challenge the premise a little bit, right? Because I don't necessarily think it's good that people invest in crypto. I think it's good that they make profitable investments in crypto, right? So just the fact that more men are investing in crypto than women is not necessarily a good or a bad thing unless you actually know the underlying numbers. And I have a suspicion, I don't know if it's true, that those percentages of women that are investing in crypto are making more conservative investments, as you typically see. So that might mean they have more of the top crypto assets like Bitcoin, predominantly Ether, maybe Solana, right? And if that comprises a larger part of their portfolio, I think that's pretty good, right? I also think, I can't qualify this, but I think that a lot of the men that are investing in crypto are also taking additional risk when they invest in crypto. So I think a much larger proportion of those, or is it 16 or 18%, is like in the most degenerate meme coins. And I think there's a lot more men that are losing money in crypto than in women. Again, I can't qualify this, but I think I'm pretty confident around that statement, right? So unless we know whether people are actually making money with their investment, I don't think we can just say that it's good or bad. Kind of the gender gap there is. That said, I think everyone should invest more in crypto. I think it's a part of a healthy portfolio to have Bitcoin, maybe some of the other crypto assets in your portfolio, whether you're a man or a woman. And that's why I also hope to see that more women will be investing in Bitcoin and crypto.
When we are wrapping up this part of the discussion, I just wanted to add that we, in this live event for some weeks ago, we also had speakers from what is called Aksje Norge. I mean, it's the organization that are stimulating people to own stocks. And they have created great results during the last 20 years. And the same thing has happened on the tech side. I mean, there are also, for instance, in Norway, there are something called ODA, which is a group then promoting female leadership as well as female engagement. So maybe we have something to learn from the other asset classes or other technologies, but that also brings me to a point which has to do with user adoption, because maybe it's not about gender all the way. Maybe it's not about knowledge or money or whatever, but what about usability? Rikke, your platform is also a platform for on-ramp and off-ramp. And how the industry done it too hard to get on board during the years? I mean, you have these number phrases, you have hard to understand the wallet. Where is the industry going right now? Are we going to see a future where these complexities are going to be abstracted? Rikke?
Yeah, so no, so you're right. We do some on-off ramping as well. So you can say invite people into the industry by actually facilitating that they can purchase some cryptocurrency. But from us, the question was always around what do you do with it? And maybe this could be for future questionnaire to actually figure out why do people actually hold crypto? Is it just to see the gains on it, or will they actually use it for something either as a payment, or actually to go into NFTs or other tokens and so on? What's the reason for why getting into this industry in the first place? And I think you're right. It is it's not super easy, right? It's not straightforward. First of all, obviously, there are some regulatory requirements that needs to be fulfilled, but I guess most people who invest in stocks and so on are used to that. But then it's also not super easy to figure out where do you keep your crypto, especially if you're new. What's the right wallet to choose? Do I choose a non-custodial, custodial wallet, and so on? So I do think there is some uncertainty. It creates uncertainty for a new user trying to get into this industry overall, and obviously, if to see even further adoption, some of these things, we as an industry will need to even out, to make it more smooth for more people to get engaged. And then, to my next point, to then use the crypto for something. This should also be made more easy. It is still not the easiest to move your funds around, whether you want to use it as a payment or you want to swap it into something else. It still comes with quite a lot of responsibility on you as an individual to understand and know the technology and know the processes to use your crypto for something.
What do you think about this, Morten? You are now in a new startup, and you have also trying to introduce crypto into the gaming world, and now you are building another type of platform. What is the really winning thing, as you have thought, starting Pixel quite recently? Is it the usability? Is it compliance? Is it the utility? Oh, what is it?
It's definitely a combination. What I could see when I had my Web3 gaming studio was that any kind of company wanted to be gamified, and especially what was happening in the gaming space, that all the games were now becoming financialized, open economies, because again, the new generation, they are not just gaming, they are building identities, they are trading, they are swapping, they're basically just living their life in a digital world, but also jumping back and forth. And what I saw was that, like I said, I've been talking about Mika the last 2.5 years, right? Because I could see that this was the next move for, especially in the gaming space, where now gaming studios, they want to be compliant, they want to make sure, but compliance is it's a big beast, because nobody actually understands it. And it's a little bit kind of like, do we need to deal with it? I know I need to deal with it, but can I avoid it? I will definitely do it. And I think we have tried in PixelPie to make that more seamless and frictionless, like saying that we understand your business, we understand what you're trying to do in the gaming world, and especially then touching, even though we are B2B, but we are B2B2C, right? Because we will also deal with the KYC for the actual gamers if they now are need to off-ramp and take their money out, or they want to move from one game to another. All these kind of things is where we have found out that it is actually not that hard to do. It's more like just removing the friction and understanding this space, and see again with the new generations how they actually are interacting with different brands, because at the end of the day, they just want to have fun. They don't want to have any kind of they don't care about the technology, to be honest, behind the scenes. They just want to move their asset from A to B, or they want to move in and out, or they don't want to do KYC all the time, because at the end of the day, that's just friction, and why would you do that if you don't need to? So it's kind of like that whole hassle we are trying to remove. And like I said, they just want to spend their money. If they have made money in a game, they would just spend it like they're doing on work. There's no difference in this one. And I think that's the regulators that is, and I have to give kudos to the Danish regulators in this instance, because I think actually they are very forward thinking and trying to understand different use cases for how blockchain are being basically used, and also in gaming, and understand the users. At the end of the day, they are not, like I said, 99% of them are not fraudulent scammers, whatever it is. We've just made it very, very hard for them actually to take their money out again once they come in. So I think it's that whole thing we're trying to solve, which I think we're doing pretty well right now, even though we're only a year.
I also wonder which role and which importance does the local crypto exchanges have in each country? And Karina, I just wanted you to perhaps comment on it, because we can see that, for instance, in Sweden, Safella has a strong presence, and even Gobit, and also Trio. So there are 3 large local crypto exchanges. We see the same in Finland and in Norway, and your mother company, Firi, has a very strong position in Norway, but you have gone into Denmark for the last 3 or 4 years or something. is it harder to build presence when you are a daughter company, or do you have a secret sauce to how to compete out the other global exchanges like Coinbase or Binance or whatever they are called?
I don't think it's more difficult because you're like a daughter company. I think it's your presence. If you are perceived as local and you are local with a local office, Danish-speaking employees and a support line and all of those things, I don't think it's more difficult. I think here the time is the difference. The time in the local exchanges in Sweden and in Norway have been there for a longer time. They have grown with the crypto industry. They've been there from the beginning. Whereas, for example, FIRI in Denmark, it's only been 2.5 years with the FTX and Celsius and all of that to begin with, which wasn't the greatest start of all. And then I also think that it's more about the overall sentiment towards crypto. I think if you look into how authorities and media have been talked about and treated crypto through the last 10 years, there's a huge difference. So in Sweden and in Norway, it's been reluctant, yes, because it should be when it's a new like asset class or a new industry, but it's also be curious, where we have been completely missing out on the curious part in Denmark. It's been all about scam, cryptos only for criminals. By the way, it takes up all the energy in the world, and so far and so far. And I think that we see the needle moving, and we've been seeing it for the last couple of years, where it's not just because it's easier, it's also because it's more okay to actually be curious to crypto, because there might just be something about it. So I don't think it's that much harder to be a daughter company than a local one, just to sum up your question.
Okay, what about the future then? Because now we are moving into these MiCA regulation in all the Nordic countries. I think the schedule is a little different. Norway is the latest one. And as I understand it, you are applying also from Denmark for MiCA together with 28 or 29 other digital currency companies. What can be the importance of MiCA in making crypto more acceptable, both on the political and regulation, and maybe even on the business side? Karina, yes, please.
I definitely think that MiCA is a great framework. It makes it more legit to be in the crypto space. It makes it easier to make overall companionships and collaborations with other companies, because suddenly there is a framework. I think it's a mess the way that when it goes into force in the different EU countries. I think that's a complete mess. In terms of, it would have been so much easier if MiCA were turned into force at the same date in each EU country. I think that the fact that you mentioned Norway is the latest one, we're in a situation where bureaucracy is taking over because the EUS country didn't have a meeting before 1st of January. They have it like later in this year, and then suddenly Norway is treated like a third country. We could be like, and it doesn't make sense. So that's why we have the MiCA application in Denmark as well. So I think the overall MiCA and the regulation and the framework that it will make legit to be in the crypto space is a good thing, but the bureaucracy in terms of everything turning into force and the combination of how they're actually also, how can you say, looking at or understanding the rules. We see rules coming from the EU, and then we see guidelines coming from ESMA, and then the EU say, no, ESMA, you overstepped on your authorities here, so go back and make new guidelines. But in the meantime, the industry have actually adapted onto those guidelines. The bureaucracy is just a mess right now.
I also wanted to talk about another type of coins. I mean, stable coins. There is no question in the question here about stable coins as such. Maybe some DeFi answers can be interpreted in that direction. And we talked the other day, Simon, about stable coins perhaps being the killer app in the crypto industry, and we both laughed a little about it. But can stablecoin both be an opener for a lot of people into this new industry and even make a bridge towards the fiat world? Simon?
I think Simon lost audio.
Yeah. Simon, you have to have sound on. Oh, you lost audio. Okay. You don't know why. Okay. Are there anybody else in the panel that want to comment? Maybe Rikke, in your industry, is stablecoin being part of a new payment rail, or how is that?
Yeah, no, for sure. We do see a significant part of our total amount of payments being in stable coins, and also now with MiCA coming in, and particularly the whole how can I say it, discussion around USDT and whether they're MiCA compliant or not, and various players in the market coming out with their own interpretation whether to delist USDT or not. I mean, it did create some what can I say, added excitement before end of the year. Just like when we were finishing our MiCA application, we also had to, you know, get an understanding of USDT, and I guess Coinbase was out first, and you know, encouraging all European consumers to switch from USDT to USDC. And then it took you know, several months before other bigger players like Kraken and so on came out with similar advice. I guess here in Denmark we followed, you know, council's advice and also the communication with the Danish FSA to the best of our ability. But yeah, I think also you know, stable coins are here to stay. But I think maybe to chime a little bit into Karina's point, there has been a little bit confusion around stable coins and you know, the use cases and which ones were MiCA compliant and which ones weren't, and so on. It would have been nice to have a little bit more clear cut information from 1st of January.
Yes, Simon, you're back. Maybe you should try again and see whether we can hear you. What role does stablecoin have in the payment rails that you are working on, which has a focus on crypto companies that are not maybe that loved by the regular banks?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, I think if you look historically, stablecoins was primarily used to get funds to more exotic exchanges. And then we saw stablecoins being used for trading pairs against, again, exotic crypto assets. But we're also starting to see now that stablecoins are being leveraged more and more for actual payments for goods and services. Most of our clients are crypto brokers, crypto investment firms, but we're also starting to see that some of the companies that are onboarding are companies that are, for instance, sending out their invoices in crypto. They're companies that are paying providers in other parts of the world through stablecoins. And this is still a small part of our business, but we can see that it's increasing every month. And we are seeing more business-to-business payments settle in stablecoins globally. And we're seeing a lot of companies trying to support that development by creating and building payment orchestration networks that allows you to settle international trades or international payments using stablecoins in a so-called stablecoin sandwich, where you go from local currency to stablecoin and back to local currency in the recipient country. And I think that's something we're going to see more and more of moving forward.
How is that in your business, Morten? Because sort of, we could define your platform more as a Web3 platform. Is that correct? And because there are some usability there for creators, and what kind of payments flow and workflow are they seeking for, and what are you offering?
Basically, we are actually offering, you can pay in all currencies, both fiat and actually crypto, but actually everything that happens inside our platform, because we are very much consumer faced, and we need to make sure that, you know, that the wallet balances of the gamer in this case are 100% backed one-to-one. That's why actually having the stable coin internally in our system for the gamer wallet's balance is super needed. Like, you know, this is where you need to make sure that whatever you have in your balance is 100% backed up in a commercial bank or wherever it is. And that's why actually the whole USDT and the USDC was very, very important for us. And we just could very quickly see that this is not compliant. USDT is not compliant when you're looking at MiCA regulation. So we were very quickly just to say, we can't accept that. We can't work with that, because we need to make sure that you are actually an approved stable coin. So we basically convert the user's money if they are topping up their wallet into a stable coin that we are backing up in a commercial bank, 100%. That also means that you can now move across games, cross systems, the whole thing. We actually don't care. And at the end of the day, we can reconcile your real bank account if you want to take money out in whatever currency you want to take it out in. So it's, for us, we are working very much with stable coins, but of course you can pay with Bitcoin, whatever you want to, Ethereum, Polygon, all the native currencies in the games themselves. But if you want to have money that is basically just sitting in your wallet and have this interoperability, you need to have it in a stable coin. And that's where we have our own, you could say, in-game or in-game loop, kind of like it could be USDT or USDC, or it could be our own Pixel Pi, but that's a closed loop one that is 100% backed one-to-one, because it's not, we don't have an EMI license yet. So we're not an open economy where we can have what I call an open stable coin in a Pixel Pi. But that will come next year.
Can I just add to a little bit about the stable coins, because I think turning back to newcomers in the space, trying to understand how to use it and why to use it and why crypto and why blockchain, I think that stable coins and the easiness towards cross-border payments and both the easiness but also less expensive, and the way that it could be transferred much quicker is the only use case that normal people actually understand if they are not in the gaming or in the investment space. It's, okay, now I can see that there's actually a use case, because we have a finance system that is working very well in the Nordics.
What is fun with this conversation and also with the Danish industry is that it's quite diversified. It has different types of business concepts and different ways to onboard businesses, onboarding users. So it points to a future that is exciting. We will now also invite again Jakob and Magnus and Vetle to the stage. And a question for you guys would be, how do you view this discussion compared to the findings in the report? Are they aligned or not? Magnus, maybe you could start.
Yeah, I believe that they are aligned in some matter, because you can address them from, call it, so many different angles, and I think the panel has done a great job in terms of giving a good overview of the whole of the ecosystem, because it's a clear distinction between what call it general media tends to believe, that the blockchain is equal to Bitcoin, and that is what we are talking about, because that is crypto. There's so many different use cases, and like something that was mentioned also that I can just add a cent to on the stablecoin part. What we see in practice is that this, call it, revolution that is also very often used as a word in media in general, is not happening on the front end side, that we're going to run down to 7-Eleven and pay a Coca-Cola or a Faxe Kondi with crypto. It is rather on the back end side, on the banks, the TradFi, the part that the consumers and the journalists in general don't see. So if you just lift this one up to a level and look into a reason, call it, I would rather say revolutionary happening, is that SAP, the global famous ERP system vendor, the enterprise resourcing planning tool that all corporates are using, they have integrated a stablecoin module in their ERP systems. Right now, you can just call them up. After 30 minutes, you have access to the module, and you can instantly use stablecoins to pay your invoices. Like Simon said, this is happening right now. No one actually knows about this one. You choose your stablecoins there. You have access to them on an ownership rate yourself. You control them, sort of saying. The invoice is issued in a normal way in the ERP system. It's just another protocol layer. Then you choose the payment. Then the ERP system from the accounting side instantly says payment has been commenced and it's settled. This is what is the revolution, sort of saying, that is happening, and this is not happening directly in Denmark payment or Norway. It's rather cross-border or intercompany, but this is just one small step that is actually a huge step in the big perspective of how I see the landscape evolving.
What do you think about the difference or the sameness between the panel and your findings? And another question, should you maybe add a question about why people are buying Bitcoin? Or is it self-explanatory, it's digital gold or whatever? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Go ahead, Vetle.
Yeah, I guess we all have to acknowledge how this survey is run and what kind of people respond to this survey. It's a broad survey asking what would mainly encompass retail traders when you aggregate data as a whole. We have in the past in Norway asked questions on what you use cryptocurrencies for and what kind of cryptocurrencies you own. And what we see is that some retail users are sophisticated and use DeFi or use self-storage, but it's a relatively small portion of the general retail populace. But the actual innovation is, as Magnus said, happening without the people being aware of it, and stablecoin adoption will integrate into systems without users themselves realizing that stablecoins are being used. So if institutions are innovating, it's not necessarily that the general populace would realize that. And then I would also make the argument that even investing in crypto is using some of the properties of crypto, and in that you have this self-enforced scarcity in Bitcoin, and you have the option to store it on your own and be completely reliable on your own without having to trust any intermediary. And that's one of the core technologies behind crypto assets and Bitcoin in general. So that's interesting to at least address here in this conversation. And then in terms of when we talked about genders earlier, I think it was also interesting to highlight that when we asked that question of which cryptocurrencies you own in Norway in the past, we saw very little variation between genders. It was typically the same kind of exposures. And it was also not a very interesting question overall to include, because naturally we saw ownership rates more or less coincide with the general dominance of given cryptocurrency within the market cap. So the findings ended up being more or less what you would expect. So that's the reason why we have excluded it now, and then rather focused on trying to understand how much people invest in crypto. So you get more interesting observation from that.
We were also talking a little about taxes yesterday with the Swedish live event, and also you mentioned it, Jakob, which is a topic that you are working in Denmark. But maybe I could ask Magnus first. It seems to be quite stable and not a politician issue in Norway, correct?
Well, in Norway, we have had the fortune of having a tax authority there who has been front-running this for years. It is not that well known, but Norway has already, they established sort of saying a focus area on this one from the local side already back in 2011. Norway actually sent 2 tax officers to a Bitcoin conference in 2012, paying the tickets with Bitcoin. That's pretty advanced at that time, sort of saying. I would like to see the travel expense being dealt with back in 2012 there. I guess there was some personal handlings. But anyway, as anecdotes on the side, Norway has been leading this landscape, not only in the Nordics, but globally, actually, on clustering, tracing, monitoring. So in Norway, we have been fortunate enough to say that we had a tax authority that we could have an open dialogue with. It's not like they can come back to us after 1 year or whatever. I and my colleagues in the tax sphere, we have never waited more than 1 day to have a meeting with them. It's a continuous dialogue. We get clarity based upon that. For this tax year, we're very clear that if this is a advanced DeFi mechanism or a staking mechanism, we can give an opinion on it. But we have to take into concern that if someone else says something different, we might need to change it. But for this tax year, we give you the predictability. And that has helped a lot compared to what we see in other jurisdictions, not only in Denmark, but all over the world, where people instead are confused. They get different answers when they call them, and then instead they just sit still and do nothing. So I would say we are very fortunate in Norway to have such a forward-leaning authority in general. On the other side, from the politician point of view, from the government side, it's just as horrible in Norway as in other countries in general, I would say. So we have to, find the different ministries or departments that has the knowledge. Then Norway is clearly leading the way. But in general, we still struggle in the same way with politicians on, call it, the average level.
Jacob, I think I read that there was a politician in Denmark that wanted you in Denmark to apply the Austrian way of doing taxes. And my question could then be, why don't look to Norway?
Well, I think first, maybe just to take a step back, I think this just in regard to the report and the dialogues we're having right here. Right now, we're talking about technology, right? We're talking about what it can actually be used for. And I think in Denmark, that's a huge change, right, in the sentiment. And I think that's what the report shows as well. People are actually now getting a broader understanding of it. And then that correlates to the discussion that we're having with public elected and with the specific public elected who had this suggestion as well, is that now there is an enlightened discussion about a technology sector that can provide value for the country, right? Previously, it's been a lot about trading scammers. Now we have the premises to take a good discussion. And currently, right now, the Ministry of Tax and other public elected are having a working group where we are part of it as well. And we are talking about very concrete solutions. And right now, it's still a discussion, but we are looking into what are they doing in other regions as Norway? What are they doing in the suggestion in Austria and other places? But basically just now with real numbers, real discussion, who basically owns it, is a trader or not. And that's the discussion that's going on right now and will go on for the next couple of months. And I could go to the public elected and the ministries. They are now looking at data and looking into good, viable solutions. So of course, looking into Norway is a great way, and that's being looked into as well. So extremely positive.
Okay, we are moving to the end of this live event, and in the end, I will give all the participants an opportunity to give an answer about what can bring the adoption even further. But Simon, you also had a comment about some of the findings that you wanted to share.
Yeah, just quickly, some interesting things about the report. I was looking through it. One interesting finding is that when you look at the platforms the Danes are using, it's actually 1/3 that can't use crypto in the traditional sense, right? So if you take Luna and the ETF and sum that up, 1/3 of all the Danes participating are actually on what you can call closed loop platforms. So they're people that won't have access to a wallet. They can't do withdrawals. They can't do payments. I obviously find that very interesting, being a payment company, that 1/3 of the clients can't use crypto, and therefore that is only for investing. I don't think that's either good or bad, but I think it's a pretty interesting thing. And I actually didn't expect that Lunar would be such a big player. It makes sense. It's a well-known service. It's convenient, but that was pretty interesting. And then the final thing that is also relevant when you discuss investments is the exposure through, for instance, pension funds. I did a little bit of research before, and my estimate is that around 2 million Danes are exposed to crypto or Bitcoin in some way or form through pension funds, through either companies such as Tesla that owns Bitcoin, or through ETFs or other instruments, which is just quite interesting compared to the people that actively invest directly.
Okay, then we thank for all the input in the discussion, but I would also like to make each of you give an answer about what is the major killing action or whatever that could bring the adoption even further. For instance, to next year, if we will then return on the Crypto Adoption Week in 2026 or 2027. What about you, Rikke? Where is the secret sauce?
I can reply. I think it's quite straightforward. The legal work that's going on right now, clarification on taxation, is just extremely important. Right now, it's up in the air, and there's a lot of really good work going on right now on Enlighted, a lot of information. So the clarification that would be created this year would be a huge, a major thing for the upcoming numbers and adoption.
Okay, maybe we can move further from another angle in the view of the speakers. So maybe you could just log out, Rikke, and log into again, which Simon did. I think that should work. Vetle, what would you be excited to see in the numbers for the next year?
Now, so with this report, what we show is that it is a big grassroots interest in crypto and in Denmark, which should translate into crypto being a relevant topic for politicians and legislators. And it should be a very convenient tool to show politicians and legislators to move the discourse and basically safeguard that both tax questions and also other regulatory issues are resolved in a manner that helps the general Danish crypto owners and make sure that both the industry thrives from an industry perspective with local exchanges and local companies being able to participate in industry, but also from a user point of view with fair and good tax laws. So translating these ownership ratios into politically meaningful numbers could be an important angle ahead.
What about you, Karina? What do you think will be important? And you are still growing in Denmark. And what will you think will give the adoption in Denmark an even more push for the next couple of years?
Well, first of all, I would like to echo Jacob with the tax issue. I think as soon as it has been settled, and I believe it will be that just after the summer holiday, and the Danish citizens know the tax rules that are going to be applied, I think that will be a huge booster. I also think that if we look into the different target groups, the ones with the more experience in investing, the ones that are very well positioned in real estate and stocks and other things, are going to allocate a larger portion into crypto, mainly because if the macro conditions are there, I think the macro conditions are going to show us if the rest of 25 is going to be good or bad. So it looks good so far for the first couple of months for 25 for the next year's report, but it can quickly change. So that's two of them. And then I think it's just the overall debugging all the myth that I think that everyone is doing a great job at doing right now.
What is your sense, Morten?
Same. I have to say that tax regulation really kind of like, I think that's the major driver. And then I think now that MiCA has really come into effect, maybe not full effect yet, but once that has come in, I think we will see more bigger players, also more banks moving into this, offer crypto products to the clients. And I think that is just going to move everything in the right direction. So I'm very, very positive for now the next phase of what we see. And I think MiCA, even though with the good and the bad, is going to drive a lot of this. But of course, everything depends on what the Naughty Professor is going to do in the US. And I think that maybe it's going to drive what's going to happen here in Europe. But it feels like that was a well-needed kick in the butt for the European regulators and the European politicians to take Europe seriously, and now maybe put a little bit more speed into adoption and work. That's just my non-biased political opinion.
Okay, Simon, maybe we can hear your views.
Yeah, I agree with most have been said. The clear tax regulation really helps. MiCA might help a bit. I think what we're seeing this cycle is also a little bit different. We're seeing institutions to a much larger extent leading the market. I think Morten is right when he says that banks will enter the space and offer crypto products directly to their clients, probably starting with Bitcoin. And I think the market will also be a large catalyst for retail interest, right? So if we see a genuine bull run, potentially decoupled from other risk assets, you're going to get Bitcoin headlines everywhere. It seems that there's a consolidation around Bitcoin as the crypto asset, again, led by the United States, making a clear differentiation between Bitcoin and other crypto assets. We also see that in the price and the Bitcoin dominance. It's a more simple narrative to have in the public, to have in the media. Bitcoin is rallying. The big institutions are buying. Companies and treasuries are buying. Nation states are buying. If we add a couple of more S&P 500 companies acquiring Bitcoin, a couple of more nation states, maybe a couple of Gulf states, then it's going to be impossible for retail buyers to ignore that. And I think that will drag a lot of retail investment along, either through buying crypto directly, buying Bitcoin directly, or through the ETFs. There was just a new investment product by BlackRock launched in Europe today as well, right? So it's going to be a lot easier. And I think we're going to see a lot more headlines about Bitcoin over the next, say, 3 to 6 months, for sure.
Rikke, welcome back. And what is your view of the future and what will drive adoption?
Thank you. No, I think it's been, most of the areas been touched upon by these, distinguished panelists here. So I can only, agree with what they said. So maybe instead I just want to thank, Jakob and the NBA for all the hard work that they're doing regarding this tax regulation, because it is super important work, and it's really helping the industry in Denmark, which is the focus of this discussion. And also, thank you for sharing the findings again from the survey, very focused on Denmark. I think it is rarely that we see something so specifically focused on Denmark, because it's all, globally and a lot led by the US and so on. So it's nice to actually see some facts, very targeted in our very small nation state, but super important. So thank you for that.
What about you, finally, then, Magnus? What do you expect for the next year, and what were you looking into the numbers to see when you are opening the Excel sheet in 1 year?
Yeah, as being a traditional, call it, compliance guy within this landscape, naturally I have to also highlight the tax area, because I've been assisting Jacob and the great work that was said that NB has been doing in Denmark. And clearly I see this one as a key element of, we call it the storm that was out there and the confusion in media in general and all that fuss. Clearly that was, just a clear warning, just stay away because this is going to create lots of fuss and hassle for you. So even though we had, call it the positive markets and the bull run, that was sort of maybe stopping that one a little on the side. However, being a compliance guy who is also working with the DeFi landscape and the smallest actors there also, I would like to say it's also very interesting, like you said, Simon, on call it how you purchase your crypto and what you prefer. And I think that's back to what we started the discussion with why don't we get the adoption? Is it about the user interfaces like Morten said and others? And I believe so. I believe so that the consumers out there, they just want conveniency. So if you have it in your Lunar app, you just go in and buy. You don't care about having these these private keys. So we have access to it yourself. You see it just as a number on the screen like anything else. And just to explain it, it's just a third party who buys the crypto for you. So you can never withdraw crypto per se directly if you have it in the Lunar app, and you cannot insert crypto either in it. It's just an amount that you have to go in with Danish crowns and out with Danish crowns. And I think we see the same when you look into the ETP numbers, like we looked into here, with 14% and a growth in this one. That clearly shows that it's gone from 5 to 14. That people also maybe on a call it older age group prefers these things because it's more convenient. It's an asset class you are familiar with. Maybe your legal team is also familiar with it. Your accountants is more familiar with it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that one grow even more when you take into concern to summarize the whole thing with the MiCA. Morten is perfectly clear. MiCA is not here yet. There's a long way to go. And I said this already 2-3 years ago. MiCA will not come in place by the 1st of January or the 30th of December this year. It is going to take minimum a year, and that's what we see. However, just in brief to summarize the whole thing here, I also have a hypothesis surrounding why Danish people also prefer to stick a little bit with Coinbase, Binance, with eToro also that we've seen been in there for many years. And I think that might be down to that we've seen the last, call it at least 3 years maybe, that Scott, the Danish tax authorities, they've had a focus. They send out warning letters, etc. And there might be a misconception about people saying, oh, if this is at the foreign exchange, then they don't have access to my number. I'll just stick here and trade. I will not move over to any Danish one because then they will see my numbers. And in this kind of way, I say stupid consumers, they don't understand that actually authorities, they have access to this one. So we will also see other regulations coming in place, something called CARF, the Crypto Asset Reporting Framework, which will be unified in all civilized jurisdictions where exchanges and other will reveal your trading to the authorities. That will be a pro and a con side in terms of, call it, revealing stuff towards conveniency also for consumers. So I think we can see a mix of this one, that we will have more and more of these easy, quick fix products growing, but also on the other side, when there's a clarity that we need, then it's easier to go to Firo, K33 or Coinify or others to actually buy this product, because then you have the clarity that is needed. So I would say, I hope for our growth on both areas.
Well, we will see in 1 year what will then happen. And in between, we have 3 more live events, maybe even 4. And tomorrow, we will have 2 live events. We will starting up with Finland on 10 o'clock in the Central European time, which should be 11 o'clock locally in Finland. And on 12 o'clock Central European time, we will have a live event on Iceland, which also that will be 11 o'clock in their local time schedule. And we look forward to that. And on Thursday, we have a pause, and we will finish up the whole week on Friday with a long live event, which will be in 2 parts. We will have the Norwegian results, and we will also have a Nordic overview and also a Nordic discussion. So we thank you very much for the panelists and the speakers and the presenters, and wish you all a joyful afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.